Good evening and welcome to the LSU Sports Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing with Reed Darcy, reliving LSU's 1-0 victory over Coastal Carolina. Were you biting your nails at the end of that one, LSU fans? Let us know in the comments. Because, a one-run game in the College World Series finals is like nail-biting time, but with Kade Anderson on the mound, Reed, it never felt like it was out of their control.
I didn't sense much of that, either online or just by looking at the crowd. I think everyone kind of trusted Kade Anderson to get it done. It was only a matter of if they were going to put him back out there for the ninth, which it always kind of looked like they were. It looked like he always had some gas left in the tank. And, what are you saving him for? Put all your chips into the center of the table right now. And I think it paid off.
Yeah, no, I mean, it paid off in huge amounts. Kade Anderson, the story of this one, 130 pitches, 9 innings. That's the big number in my book. Well, that's one of the big numbers. The other one that goes with it is the 0-run part. He only gave up 3 hits. He did walk 5 guys. That's the crazy part about this, Reed, is this is not as sharp as we've seen Kade Anderson, at least not in the first 3-4 innings of the game. He grew into it, I thought. And then he does strike out 10, but he's had more dominant games, but obviously he's never had more important games.
Yeah, he kind of got he was kind of struggling to start. I think he had 3 walks through 2 innings, and that was his season high. Before tonight, 3 walks. That was the most walks he had ever had in a game so far this season. So I looked at him like, wait, there's only 3, and he did that through 2 innings. So yeah, it took him a while to settle in. His fastball, he was having trouble locating that, but the breaking balls were. They were finding the zone, and he was striking guys out with that. He just settled in, and I think it was probably some jitters. He had to get out the way, some nerves. And then once he started locating his fastballs, I think that's when he really took off and started to find a groove and get comfortable. I think that might have happened around the 5th or 6th inning. So once he got that figured out, it was smooth sailing from there. A little uncharacteristic with the walks and the hit by pitches. I think he hit 2 batters, if I'm not mistaken. Tonight. That's kind of Coastal Carolina. That's who they are as hitters. They like to get on base either by walks or hit by pitches, and so that probably played into it as well. But I mean, just unreal. Just to go the distance in a game like that, battling the elements. It was hot up there supposedly, very windy, and just to stay composed through all 9 innings and not allow to run when your offense only gave you 1 run. And I think it's just really, really, really impressive, and it's going to go down as one of the most memorable, impactful, important pitching outings in LSU baseball history.
Yeah, and Justin, he's talking a little trash, but I mean, he's right. Like, Coastal Carolina had won 26 games in a row, and Kade Anderson said, "Nope, not against me." That was basically the story tonight. I mean, we can. There are some big moments that I want to go through, like, and the first one was in the very first inning, bottom of the first, when Derek Curiel's on first base. Ethan Fry grounds too short, and for the second straight game, LSU kind of benefits from a weird fielder's choice, where the shortstop. I don't think they were going to get a double play in this instance, but they could have gotten Curiel at second base, and instead he takes the safe out at first. I think it's fair to say that second would have been a little bit of a risk, but you see fielders do that all the time. And the very next batter, Stephen Milam, his base hit scores Curiel. Of course, we didn't know it at the time, but that was the only run of the game.
Yeah, that was it. I think at the time I didn't think much of that fielder's choice. I'm not quite sure he had time to go to second there. It was kind of a slow dribbler from what I remember. But so I don't think it was as egregious as Wehiwa Aloy, the Arkansas play from the other night. So yeah, that's all it took. Stephen Milam and Derek Curiel have been teaming up to give LSU tons of offense in the tournament. Tonight was no different, and that's really all LSU needed, and that speaks to how good Kade Anderson was tonight.
Yeah, LSU's offense really. I mean, you got to give credit to Coastal. Also, we talked about their pitching decision and starting Cameron Flukie over. I'm blanking on his name. Is it Morrison?
Jacob Morrison.
Yeah, Jacob Morrison. Thank you. Who's gonna pitch tomorrow? And Flukie was really, really good too. He struck out 9 in 6 innings, gave up only 4 hits. As a team, LSU had only 3 at-bats with runners in scoring position. Of course, Milam gets the 1 hit. They only had one extra base hit, which was also Milam, and that was really on a ball that was misplayed in right field. Like that could have been caught also. And so LSU did not bring the thunder. Of course, the wind was blowing in, especially from right field tonight. That obviously makes a difference. Kade Anderson benefited from that as well. But LSU did not hit the ball well tonight. But it was just that's all that mattered. And to that point, there's a couple other moments I kind of want to bring up, and we're also hoping Scott Rabelais can hop on from Omaha here later in the show. But I do want to let you know that our post-game coverage and our postseason coverage at the Advocate of LSU baseball all postseason long is brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health. They are the official championship health partner of LSU athletics. The next moment that comes to mind for me, Reed, is the caught stealing. Sebastian Alexander was on second base for Coastal in the third inning, I believe it was.
I'll double check you.
Had runners on first and second and 2 outs, and they go, I think, for a double steal. I assume the trailing runner was going also, but Luis Hernandez tries to cut down Sebastian Alexander at third. Would have been a very close play. I think Alexander was in there, but he overslides the bag, and Michael Braswell, who had a great night defensively, is able to kind of like play tag with him and get him before he gets back to the base for the third out. And that was one of, Coastal's last scoring opportunities, really, was that third inning. They had scoring opportunities in each of the first 3 innings. I think they might have gotten one runner to second base later in the game, but that was really the last great chance they had.
That was, and you were exactly right. It was in the third inning. He did beat the throw. He touched the base before Braswell could apply the tag, but he slid past it and he overshot it. I think the ESPN broadcast said the infield was playing a little fast tonight, I guess. But either way, he slid head first. Maybe he should have slid feet first in hindsight, but slid head first. Went past the bag and tried to get back on, but Braswell, credit to Braswell for sticking with the play and not giving up and then going for the tag and getting him out right there. That was like you said, that was a crucial moment right there. And I think the play, the numbers that are really jumping out to me right off the bat, going to take me a second to pull them up here. It's Coastal Carolina. They hit 1 for 15 with runners on, and then 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. That's kind of uncharacteristic for them. They're usually pretty good at taking advantage of opportunities when they have guys on base and moving them around and keeping their offense rolling. So I think that speaks to just how poised Kade Anderson was in high leverage moments. Really, the entire game basically was one long high leverage moment. And when he had some traffic to deal with, he was really sharp, and he didn't let Coastal Carolina move those base runners along and bring them home. And I think that's really important because LSU's offense could only give you 1 run tonight.
Yeah, and I also want to shout out Braswell again because the guy's not hitting at all. I mean, he struggled at the plate all year long. He's really not hitting right now. He did hit a ball well to right field tonight. It was caught, but he's like 1 for his last 37 now or something like that at the plate. But the reason that Jay Johnson continues to put him in the lineup is because in these close games in Omaha, I mean, boy, you talk about that tag. He came in on a ball and was like all the way down on a bunt, like, I don't know, 15 feet from home plate, and makes a strong throw. Then there was the play in the 9th where he really had to come really far to his left, and then he kind of double clutches the ball, but still makes a strong throw. It was an impressive night defensively for him. But yeah, Kade Anderson with runners in scoring position really seemed to bear down. He struck out Pato to end the first inning with runners on first and second. We talked about the third, and that was another key play. And Kade Anderson's the one who makes the defensive play in this case. After Coastal had the first 2 runners on, they bunted again, and it was a good bunt, and Anderson had to make a tough play, and I think his only play was to third base, and he makes that play, and that was before the caught stealing. So that's really a key moment in the game. Then they get a leadoff double in the 4th. Their only extra base hit, Pato again with the double down the left field line, and then he strikes out the side. That's all Kade Anderson does at that point. And I believe that was the last time Coastal had a runner in scoring position on the night.
Yep, I think it was too. You can double check me on that.
I just scrolled through. It definitely was.
I'm glad you brought up Braswell because there's been, in the last couple of weeks through the tournament, there's, I've sensed some consternation from LSU fans about his hitting. and the trade-offs of having him in the lineup, being so cold versus having him and his glove in the field. And I think you saw exactly why Jay Johnson has stuck with him throughout struggles at the plate. It's because he is far and away the best defensive third baseman they have, and he's a damn good defensive third baseman. And he made some pretty important plays tonight, especially the one, the tag in the third inning, and then the nice play in the ninth, which really wasn't a gimme. That was really a tough play. He had to move. He had to move a good little distance there to get that ball and then turn his hips and then fire to first base and then beat the runner by a split second. That was a really important play too, because you don't want to give Coastal a base runner in that situation. You don't want to extend Kade Anderson even more past 130 pitches because he was already pretty close to his limit. So the fact that he got that guy out, I think, was huge, because you don't want to give them momentum and you don't want to give Kade Anderson another batter to face and then risk having his pitch count go up to 135 or 140, and then you might have to take him out and bring in somebody in relief. So, Braswell is struggling, and I think the LSU fans are encouraging him on, but he's absolutely making a positive impact for this team and still affecting games. So credit to him for sticking with it and staying poised.
Yeah, 100%. And my guess is that the fact that he's been able to contribute defensively so much is going to make him more comfortable at the plate. I'm not saying he's going to go 3 for 4 tomorrow or anything like that. But I do think he looked more comfortable at the plate tonight. He hit the one ball hard. He struck out once, and I think he rounded out his other time up. So it's not like he had a great night offensively tonight, but he didn't look uncomfortable up there. I think we're going to see him kind of settle in a little bit more. But look, that's just the way it was. Cookster's got another question here. Jones, he struck out 3 times. He's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. I mean, Fluky's a very good pitcher. Jared Jones has those games in him. I was a little surprised to see the first 2 strikeouts where he'd be looking. That's not necessarily like Jared Jones. I think he maybe was fooled by the way the ball was coming out of Fluky's hand or something. But obviously, he went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts last weekend against Arkansas. So that means he's going to homer tomorrow, because that's what he does after he
Yeah, he's just one of these new age feast or famine hitters where you're either striking out or you're hitting a home run. That's kind of a bit of a simplification, but that's who he is. I think that's who he is as a hitter, and that's who he's been kind of all season. So if he's not making good contact, he's probably striking out. Just one of those nights for Jared Jones. He'll probably bounce back tomorrow.
Yeah, and speaking of tomorrow, and we got more to talk about tonight, but just, look, this is what it comes down to, right? LSU can win national championship number 8 tomorrow afternoon. I don't know if they pushed the game back or because they did move it to ABC from ESPN. So, or if the game was always at 1:30 and it was just one of those deals where they're giving you the time of the pregame show the whole time. But the game does actually start at 1:30, not 1 o'clock as it looked like all week. So 1:30 on ABC. It's kind of a cool deal. It's like the lead into Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So it's a big, huge stage, even by LSU baseball standards. It's a big stage. And it'll be Anthony Ianson for LSU against Jacob Morrison, who's 12-0 for Coastal Carolina. So both teams are going to feel super confident with their pitcher. I don't think Coastal probably saw anything tonight that made them think, okay, we won 26 in a row, we lost, now we're in trouble. I don't think they're going to feel like that. LSU is going to have to go beat them again.
Not at all. I think we'll see another pitcher's duel. Like I was expecting, if this series went 3 games, I'd expect all 3 games to be low-scoring kind of pitcher's duels, and that's what we saw tonight. Just because both teams have 3 really good, capable starting arms, right? Between Kade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, and then Jacob Morrison, and the guy Coastal throughout tonight. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting to see much offense this weekend, and that speaks to how good these pitchers are.
Yeah, and we'll see what the wind is doing tomorrow. Like there's a couple of balls tonight that would have probably at least gotten down off the wall or something, or maybe snuck out of here if the wind was blowing differently. Derek Curry, Milam's, and then Curiel had to catch one either right on the warning track or almost on the warning track that was hit hard by Coastal. So that, if the wind's blowing in a different direction, or it's maybe even just not blowing as much, like we could see a little more offense just based on that. But tonight, Fluky was really good, and then obviously Kade Anderson was incredible, player of the game. 10 strikeouts, complete game shutout. only 3 hits. He did walk 5, and as you mentioned, he actually hit the same guy twice. Cameron Bodine, the Coastal Carolina catcher, got hit with a pitch twice, which is what he does. That's his thing. His on-base percentage is .460, and like half of it is hit batters. And then there was also
is he the guy with a crazy number of hit by pitches?
I think he is. Yeah. I'm gonna double check that, but like the other part of this game that was weird, right? Speaking of hit batters, ends up not mattering. But if LSU had lost this game, I guarantee you we would have been talking about it. And that's Daniel Dickinson's hit by pitch. I think in the was that the bottom of the 8th inning?
I think it was a little earlier,
maybe the 7th, where he strikes out on a 3-2 pitch that was clearly inside that hit him, but because of college baseball rules, if the umpires rule that you leaned into the pitch or got hit intentionally with the pitch, they can turn around and call it a strike.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened, even though the pitch clearly was not a strike. And so had Dickinson just moved out of the way of it, it would have been ball 4. It was a 3-2 pitch. But he moved he moved his elbow down into the path of the ball. But that was a tough break for LSU. And there was another one where a wild pickoff throw hits the umpire and keeps the runner from going to second base. And then Luis Hernandez, has a base hit on the very next plate appearance, like probably cost LSU a run. So there was a couple of kind of bad breaks for LSU that we're not talking about because they won the game anyway. But it was just a weird game where in these pitchers duels, my gosh, every little moment matters.
It absolutely does. And it was the bottom of the 7th to the Dickinson hit by pitch call. I thought, there was a lot of people super upset about the decision by the officials there. He did, by the book, he moved into the pitch, but was that a natural reaction to a pitch coming at you at 95 miles an hour? And was it even a strike? I think I'm not sure. I think probably by the letter of the law, he moved into it, and it was a hit by pitch, and you can call that a strike. But I mean, it wasn't like an intentional lean into the pitch. I felt like, and that's the frustration I felt from LSU fans. So
I agree. That's one of those that's a little bit like you want the official in any sport. And we see this in football all the time with pass interference, where like, what is the spirit of that rule?
Yes.
Okay. Like technically, yes, he moved down into the pitch, but like you said, it's not like you're instinctually like, oh yeah, come hit me with a 95 mile an hour heater. Maybe you learn that. I mean, obviously, like Dickinson wears an elbow guard. It probably doesn't really hurt that much. I mean, maybe at some point along in his baseball career, he was sort of taught to do that. Like, hey, if it comes inside, go ahead and wear it and take first base. Like you hear coaches say that all the time. So maybe it was, but the spirit of the rule there is the guy's trying to cheat his way on base. Well, it was ball 4 anyways, clearly way inside.
Yeah.
So the spirit of the rule there to me, unfortunately, and we see this in football too. Once you go to replay, the spirit of the rule no longer applies. You have to sit there and parse out perfectly what is the rule and does this apply to the rule? And so at that point, it's a smart challenge by Coastal, but I think the rule maybe needs to be rewritten to where if the pitch is obviously not a strike, you can just go back and say, okay, it's not a hit by pitch, but it's a ball.
This is why I'm not a huge fan of replay. This is why I don't like instant replay. I kind of stray away from most people in my generation from this. I don't like instant replay, especially in baseball, because I just think like once you start, like exactly like you mentioned, once you start looking at plays under the hood and putting them in super slow-mo, it becomes black and white. It becomes objective, and you have to apply the letter of the law. And most scenarios require a little bit of subjectivity, like pass interference in football or a foul call in basketball. It's just trying to make things too black and white. And there are situations where I would want an official to apply a little bit more subjectivity to rules. So that's a little tangent for me, but ultimately that call, it was probably the wrong decision, but it didn't cost LSU much of anything.
Yeah, I'm glad things like that aren't what decides these games. Sometimes they are, though. Just while we're on the tangent, like in basketball, it used to be that if let's say an offensive player, it looks like he gets fouled, but the official swallows his whistle. But he goes, okay, but I'm going to let you keep the ball, even though the ball is probably off on you because I didn't foul. Well, now we're going to review that, and you can't review it and say, whoops, should have been a foul. At least certainly not in college basketball. And even in the NBA, that's hard to do. But when you're reviewing it, you're going, well, we can't give them the ball because replay shows us clearly that it was off of him. So now you're getting screwed in both ways. I'm kind of with you. I mean, like replay should have very limited uses in my opinion. So that's our tangent, but Kade Anderson, great. I'd say what else there is to say, but I did. Kyle Peterson on the ESPN broadcast said something interesting at the end of the game that resonated with me. And that's that, he said, if you do this in Omaha, in the College World Series finals for LSU, you become a Louisiana legend. And I tend to agree with that. Like, I think LSU has to finish this off and go ahead and win the national title. But this is going to be remembered up there with the all-time great Omaha performances for LSU pitchers. And for a kid who's from the North Shore, who, grew up rooting for the purple and gold, what a thrill for him.
Yeah, he went to St. Paul's. He's from either Covington or Mandeville. I always get him confused. But either way, he went to St. Paul's, so he's a Louisiana guy who grew up rooting for LSU. It's a pretty cool story, kind of a storybook kind of moment for him. That's why I really hope that we can get Rab on here because he can speak to the historical context of it. And before we went on air, I was trying to do some quick research, see if I can find a way to figure out how many times an LSU pitcher or just a pitcher in general has thrown a complete game shutout in a College World Series final. I can't imagine it's happened too many times. I know, Zach, you mentioned ever since they switched to Charles Schwab, which I believe was in 2011, 2012, it's become it's a pitcher's ballpark. So offense has kind of been hard to come by. So maybe it's happened in the last, decade or so. But, it's just like Ty Floyd comes in 2023 and strikes out 17 batters. It's one of those performances that you associate with these kinds of runs. If LSU does seal the deal in one of these next two games, it's just special. I mean, he's going to be a first round pick, and he's probably going to have a pretty long major league career, and you're always going to look back at him and be like, hey, that's the guy that put LSU in the driver's seat to win this national championship. So that's really cool, especially for a kid from Louisiana.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's like this can really go one of two ways when you're in that situation. You grew up rooting for this team. You get out on that stage, and the stakes can either kind of overwhelm you and cause like a poor performance, or you can rise up and meet the occasion. And Kade Anderson, so unflappable, just never seems like anything bothers him, right? Like he walks a couple guys in that first inning. So what? Some of the weird things go against the LSU offense to where the lead's only 1-0 all game. It never felt like he was stressed. It never felt like he was nervous. I mean, it felt like he always knew what he needed to do to adjust. You just can't say enough about it.
There was a little mound visit in the ninth where I kind of noticed the broadcast did a good job of capturing it. He had like a smile on his face, and he was like smiling, whatever they were telling. I think the umpire walked over there, and then they were talking, whatever they were talking about, he was kind of smiling through it, and he had just this calm, chill, look on his face, just like it was another day, another day pitching, another day in the ballpark, just a regular old game. Not the College World Series final, game 1-0 lead in the top of the ninth inning. So yeah, it's just he's probably just one of those guys who just nothing really shakes him, nothing can rattle him, and he's calm in those high leverage moments, and that was the story of tonight. Like, he faced so many high pressure, high leverage moments throughout this game because LSU had a 1-0 lead for literally the entirety of the game. So he had all these kind of moments when a runner gets on, there's two runners gets on, a runner gets in scoring position where he has to deliver, and every single time he delivered, and that speaks to his composure, his maturity, and his competitive makeup. And I think it's why a lot of major league teams are going to want to add him into the fold and try to see what he can do in the pros.
Yeah, he may have made himself some money tonight too if he goes.
Absolutely.
Could be the number one pick in next month's MLB draft, or certainly top 5 at this point. I don't think he'll go beyond that. By the way, I was just looking through some box scores to answer the question you had about complete game shutouts in Omaha, and I stumbled across 1993. LSU beats Wichita State 8-0 to win the national championship. That was the championship game. Brett Laxton, complete game shutout. See if this sounds familiar. 3 hits, 5 walks, 16 strikeouts. They don't have pitch count for these older box scores, but I'll bet you he threw more than 130 that night because they didn't really care about that back then. Yeah, so Kade Anderson joining the likes of Brett Laxton, who did end up in the big leagues for the A's later on. He was a freshman that year. So.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't think Rab was there for that game. I think when he went in '96 for Warren Morris's home run, I think that might have been his first trip, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, if Rab would probably remember if there was a couple other ones throughout the years.
Yeah. I myself was 8 years old, and you were not even a twinkle in the eye of Mr. and Mrs. Garcia. We do not remember that one. But yeah, Brett Laxton in 1993, the last. I'm going to kind of cycle through the rest of these box scores just from Omaha as we're talking to see if anybody else may have done it for LSU. All I have in front of me in their media guide are the box scores from the years they won the national championship. So there may be one, in another year where they ended up not winning the title, but so far, and I'm up to 2009, LSU has not even had another shutout, much less one guy pitching a complete game shutout in any of these situations. So, yeah. And as you mentioned, Ty Floyd had the big performance in 2023. And of course, Paul Skeens had a couple of really great performances 2 years ago as well, but none of them were complete game shutouts. Ty Floyd went 8 innings. Paul Skeens went 8 in the what was that, an 11-inning game against Wake Forest? So
that's right. It went to extra.
Yeah. I just got through in any of their national championship runs. They have not had a complete game shutout since that Brett Laxton in 1993. So pretty historic stuff from Kade Anderson tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if there's a way to figure out exactly how many, not just LSU pitchers, but other pitchers, from any school.
Have
done that in the last, 2 decades or so.
Really have to scour some box scores. Bo Barbecue says he remembers that 93 game very well. Bo, what do you remember about it? What was like? What kind of pitcher was Laxton?
Were you there? Were you at the game, Bo? Were you at Rosenblatt?
Yeah. That obviously was not nearly as close of a game as this one either. It ended 8-0. That's a difference too. Bo also says doesn't have the bats as the 2023 team. I mean, I agree with that. I think, and it's weird because that 2023 team had Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens. They had the star power. I think this LSU team is much deeper than that team. I mean, just look at Josh Pearson. Josh Pearson doesn't play every day. Not even every other day for this LSU team. He started for that 2023 team. So I think this is a much deeper team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But the main commonality that I see in it is the 1-2 punch with the pitchers. Skeens and Ty Floyd. And now you have Kade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. Nobody's Paul Skeens, but those two guys can win you a lot of games, especially when it's a 3-game series kind of format like this. So the thing that I think about it's the 1-2 pitch, but the 1-2 punch with the pitchers. The teams offensively, I think, have different makeups because the 23 team could really hit for power. Right, you had Cade Beloso in there. You had Tommy White in there, guys who could swing for the fences. This team is a little closer to the small ball kind of approach, where they get guys on and then move them around. So, pretty cool to see the contrasting styles to how LSU has gotten to this point. Winning with one team and then kind of winning with a different way with a different team with the makeup. That's kind of what you need nowadays in the transfer portal era where guys are coming in and out. And Jay Johnson's been pretty malleable, pretty flexible in building 2 different kind of teams that both can either win a national championship or get pretty darn close to it, which is what this LSU team is now.
Yeah, and to that point, speaking of small ball, LSU's 1-0 victory. This comes from our Koki Riley I'm sure it was passed along to him by somebody, but Koki's the source I get it from. The first time LSU has won an NCAA tournament game, not a College World Series game, any NCAA tournament game, 1-0 in its long history.
Hard to believe.
I mean, you don't, again, you think about Alec Box as a hitter's park. The old Alec Box was a hitter's park. Rosenblatt was a hitter's park. Like 1-0 games were not common at all in those parks anyway. So now they're going to be a little more common at Charles Schwab, especially when you get that wind blowing in off the Missouri River there in Omaha. Like that can definitely help. But still, this team's been playing. They've played hundreds of NCAA tournament games over the last 40 years. Never had a 1-0 victory.
Yeah. So Zach, I think the Brett Laxon stat, I think you were correct about that. Todd Politz, who's LSU's stat guru, tweeted out that he's the only only LSU pitcher to ever do it in Omaha. So you didn't get to see, all the other trips that didn't end in a championship, but it looks like he's the only one. So only 2 complete game shutouts in LSU College World Series history, one in 1993 and one tonight. So yeah, pretty impressive company for Kade Anderson.
Yeah, it's special. We know he's special, and I'll say this too. Like Koki and I had a conversation earlier in the season. Kade Anderson threw 135 pitches. He shut out Oklahoma on the road. This is back early in SEC play, and I was on the record kind of saying that's too many, and I still kind of stand by that. I don't think you need to be pushing a guy that far in the third SEC weekend or whatever that was. Like you've got a lot of season ahead of you. And honestly, Kade Anderson was not as sharp the next couple of weeks. I think that they got swept at Auburn, and that was one of the games he didn't pitch. I mean, he was okay, but he definitely tired out earlier. And then I think the next week too, he wasn't quite as good. Now, having said that, this is when you push a guy to 130 pitches. It's 1-0. It's College World Series. It's the championship series. He's cruising. He's getting stronger. His fastball velocity hadn't dipped. Like, I am completely on board with this. I don't know that I would have pushed him too far beyond this. Like, I think if he walks that coastal batter and 2 guys are on, I think at that point you've got to go to the pen. Is that how you felt?
That's exactly how I felt. Just go all in. Let him get to 130. Because he has done that before this season. I just don't think that he's the type of guy who has a little more length to him than other LSU pitchers like Paul Skeens. I don't think Skeens ever got to 130. I could be wrong, but I don't remember him ever getting to 130. That's probably because he's throwing so hard, throwing so fast, and you want to save him for for his the start of his MLB career, because he was going to be starting for the Pirates. Basically as soon as he walked into the league. You got to balance that with Kade. He's got to go through the pre-draft process, and he's got to pitch in the minors in a couple months or so. So it's going to be different, but this is the type of thing where if he's feeling good, if his arm's not bugging him, if he's still got some gas left in the tank, you just ride him as long as you can, and you go for the win, because you don't get these opportunities too often, so you have to take advantage of that. So I was fine. I'm totally fine with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Paul Skeens, like it's pretty common for guys when they get drafted after pitching a full college season. Sometimes the pro teams will just shut them down for the rest of the year. They'll keep them on a throwing program, but they're not like Paul Skeens in 2023 threw 6 2/3 innings. Okay. In 5 different appearances. Okay. So he started 5 games and was basically just an opener in each of them. He threw 6 2/3 innings. And then he came back, last year, his second year, he threw only 27 minor league innings, and then he was in the big league. So he's a rare case, but like you don't see these pro teams know they're going to protect their investment. I think whoever drafts Kade Anderson, he's not going to pitch a lot the rest of this season. So for him to go to 130 on one night, obviously he still had it. He's got some stamina. He was still pumping 95. I mean, the other thing is LSU's got access to obviously his velocity, but also his spin rate and things like that in the dugout. They can tell if his arm is tiring. Okay, the ball's not spinning as much. It's not coming out as fast. The horizontal or vertical movement is off on his breaking balls. Whatever the case might be, they'll be able to see and say, okay, he's wearing down and we need to go get him, number one, for the health of his arm, number two, because he's not going to be effective much longer. They never, obviously they had a couple guys up in the bullpen there at the end, Cooper Williams and Chase Shores, but I think it was Kade Anderson's ball game pretty much the whole way.
I think it was Myers and Chase Shores, but I remember looking.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Myers. Yeah, I remember looking. His 114th pitch was 95, so he still had his velocity into the ninth inning. So he didn't wear out, he didn't tire out. He was still at his top speed, even that deep into the game. So it's his endurance. He's just built, for whatever reason, I'm not smart enough to figure it out. He's just built, to go longer than most pitchers can.
Yeah. His first 4 pitches of the ninth inning were swinging strikes. He struck out Thorndike on 3 pitches, all swinging. And then Mijos, he struck out. He got a swinging strike for strike 1. In fact, I let myself dream, because this is the kind of baseball nerd I am. And Reed, you're not a baseball nerd, but do you know what an immaculate inning is?
Oh yeah.
I was like, he was 5/9 of the way there, because after the 4 swinging strikes, he got a foul ball, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna let myself dream. Could he end this thing on an immaculate? I mean, how amazing would that have been?
Yeah, that would have been cool. I'm not a baseball nerd yet. I think I'll get there one day. I think I really like this baseball stuff.
It's growing on you. That's good. Yeah. No, I mean, and this LSU team is the type that will grow on you. And I saw the comment here. Shamu Tiger said that Coastal Carolina doesn't seem as cocky anymore in there. Now, obviously, Reed and I have been here. We haven't watched the post-game press conference. I haven't seen it. I mean, anytime when you lose, right? Like they showed a stat tonight that boggled my mind. We said on our preview show yesterday that Coastal Carolina hasn't lost since April 22nd. They haven't even trailed past the 7th inning since like April 27th or something. There was like one game early in that winning streak they had to come back.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, they've been tied late. Like, they went to extra innings in one of the super regional games against Auburn. They haven't even trailed. They've been amazing. Now, so when you have a 26-game losing streak end, there may be a little humble pie. But I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I don't think that they feel like, if anything, they're going, all right, their best guy got us 1-0.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to use him anymore. Let's go to work tomorrow. We've got our best guy on the mound tomorrow in Jacob Morrison. Like, I don't think Coastal is going to be lacking for confidence tomorrow. Now, if LSU jumps out on them or something, that's a different story. But if LSU doesn't do that, I think this is going to be a fight.
They gave up 1 run, and LSU didn't really threaten a whole lot. LSU didn't miss a ton of opportunities because they didn't have a ton of opportunities. That's the pitching depth that Coastal has. Coastal has just as much, maybe even more pitching depth than LSU. And tonight they proved that their pitchers could go up against LSU's hitters, right? Stephen Milam had the RBI single. That's it, right? That's all LSU could do. So if I'm Coastal Carolina, it's like, yeah, we couldn't hit Kade Anderson. Well, guess what? Nobody can really hit Kade Anderson. So the fact that it was such a close game, if I'm the Chanticleers, then I'm feeling really good going into tomorrow, because, yes, Anthony Ianson is on the mound, but, Coastal Carolina's got a really good guy too. So, you saw the clips this week kind of made the rounds on social media about, the little digs at each other, going back and forth. I welcome all that stuff. Give us the interesting things, give us the fun things of kind of what you're really thinking, instead of the boring, rote kind of media trained press conference-y kind of answers. I like all that stuff. I like to hear it. We shouldn't criticize kids for talking a little harmless trash. I think it's all in good fun. It's really just adds to the competitiveness of it. It's sports, it's baseball. Let's have fun and let's be competitive.
Sports are supposed to be fun. We are pro fun on this show. It does not look like Rab is going to be able to join us. Scott Rabelais, he's got deadline. And to that end, check out theadvocate.com/LSU. Read what he's going to write. He's got to be done by 10 o'clock, and we're probably not staying on for 20 more minutes. So he is, his work will be there. It'll be in the Morning Advocate tomorrow morning, and we got to get it in there. And so it's got to be done by 10. So excuse Scott for not joining us. He will be able to join us in the postgame show tomorrow, I imagine.
Yes.
Because it's an afternoon game. It'll be over, 4:30, 5 o'clock, sometime in there. Again, the game starts at 1:30. S. Young, LSU is going to win by a lot tomorrow because what was Coastal's insult to the baseball gods tonight? I want to know that.
Was it the challenge? The hit by pitch, the challenge?
Yeah, you don't understand the baseball gods. Maybe challenging the hit by pitch. I guess that's, that was a little bit of a gamesmanship there. But I also think that I'm assuming you're an LSU fan, S. Young, and if Jay Johnson had done that, you'd be calling it brilliant. So I don't know. Like, would you still be calling it an insult to the baseball gods? I don't know. But Scott's got the most important thing here: 1 win away from 8 national championships. It's not going to be easy. I'm telling you, I don't think Coastal rolls over in any way, shape, or form tomorrow. But Anthony Ianson, I'll tell you this. The other thing is that guy has to be foaming at the mouth. He only got to pitch 3 innings in, Monday's game against UCLA before the rain came. They did not bring him back Tuesday. He was in the bullpen Wednesday and could have pitched, but did not. I think he was going to pitch if LSU and Arkansas had played another game Thursday, but they didn't. So he's been kind of like, okay, Anthony, here's your chance, like 3 different times. Mm-hmm. He's going to be completely fresh. He's only thrown 3 innings in the last almost 2 weeks. That guy is going to be ready to go.
Yeah, man, and he's competitive and he's athletic and he can turn himself around and he might even be able to give LSU 8 innings, if things go right. So it sucks that Rab's not going to be able to join us, but he's still feeding us stats in our group chat. He says that this is LSU's 50th College World Series win, 4th most of any program, so 4th most all time. So Rab is still contributing to the podcast, even though he can't join us. So that's dedication by him. That's veteran savvy. That's why he's been in the biz so long.
That's right. That's Rab going up the elevator at Charles Schwab Field, knowing he's on deadline. But he's warming up for writing his column by texting us these little nuggets. So I like it. Comment from Rick here. LSU must take it from Coastal. They can do it 1 more out of the next 2. I think this brings up an interesting point here. And that to me is if you have yourself another close game tomorrow, it's a tie game. LSU's up or down a run, especially if they're up a run. And Ianson, let's just say he can't go a complete game because who expects that sort of thing every night? But let's say LSU's up 3-2, Ianson leaves. Are you going full bore with Case and Evans and saying, I'm finishing this with my best remaining arm and we're going for it? Or if you're Jay Johnson, do you maybe not floor it the gas pedal, knowing you have Monday's game 3 and say, well, I might want to start Evans, so I'm going to go Shores or Cowan or whoever. Like how aggressive do you get? I suppose if you're ahead, you have to go for it.
My gut says that Jay will go for it. And he'll put Kaysen in a situation like that. If the situation's right, where LSU has a small lead.
Yeah, JVY, I think, is right. With a lead.
A lead, yes. Small lead, yes. I think Jay goes for it. He, pushes his chips to the table and he says, we're going for it now. We're going to take advantage of the opportunity. Knowing Jay, I think he goes that way. But with the way he's kind of played the tournament and how the tournament has shaken out so far, Chase Shores has been the guy to come in and just throw 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and just catch hitters off guard and give them a total change of pace, right? And that's been really effective for the most part in Omaha in the tournament. So I think Chase Shores, if he's throwing strikes, if he's finding the zone, he's a really good option to have at the pen. And if you put him in, then you could have Case and Evans, a guy who can go 7 innings in your back pocket for Monday. What do you think, Zach?
I think that's right if they have the lead. I think if they're behind, they're going to play it more conservatively, even if it's just behind by a run or 2. I think it's, let's not waste all those arms and lose this game and then be in trouble tomorrow. Let's hold some of these guys. The interesting one to me is if we have a tie game and you're staring at extra innings, you don't know if you need another inning or you need 5 more innings or something in between. That's the interesting one to me. Who do you have soak up those innings? Because Case and Evans, we know, can pitch multiple innings. Chase Shores has been a starter this year. He can pitch multiple innings. Zach Cowan can also. Now, Zach Cowan threw a lot of pitches on Wednesday.
Yes.
He might be the last. To me, if that's the situation, you choose whether you want Evans or Shores to be the guy who's going to pitch the 10th, 11th, 12th, however long it takes. And then maybe you're saving Cowan for Monday. But that would be the interesting one to me, is if we have a tie ball game late and you don't know how many innings you need and who you want to. I mean, obviously you want to chase the victory and the national championship right then and there, but it could get tricky.
It could, and I think ideally, say you have to play for Monday. Ideally, you'd have Cowan in relief coming in because he did throw a lot of pitches on Wednesday, and he hasn't exactly had such a quick turnaround like
Yeah.
that before the season with that much mileage on his arm and then turn around and try to do it again. So ideally, he'd come in relief, give you a few innings, but that's really it. I don't think you can count on him to start and then eat 6 innings like he did on Wednesday. You have to you have him as your back pocket, but only as kind of like a middle reliever. Am I off base on that? I just think that um, it's really tough. LSU doesn't in these kinds of situations. Yes, you have depth, but you don't want to be too reliant on the depth. You want your starters to be able to go 6-7 innings ideally, and you want to have a guy in case it goes to Monday. There's really only one guy who can do that, and that's Kade Evans. So
I think that's where I'm at. And like, I think it's you let Einstein go as long as he can, obviously. And then if I'm Jay Johnson, I'm okay with burning one more of my top arms, whether it's Chase Shores or Kade Evans. But I don't want to burn both of them. I want to save one who will then start Monday's game if necessary, and then I can back that guy up with Cowan. Who could maybe give me 3 or 4 innings out of the bullpen, and then you got to piece it together after that. I mean, obviously, you get to game 3. Like, the advantage LSU has now is that Coastal they have to go for broke.
Yes.
Whether they're up, down, or tied tomorrow, they have to go for broke. They have to use their top arms, and they have to burn anybody and everybody they need to get to Monday. And so if that happens, then you should have an advantage Monday regardless, because Coastal, I think on Monday would start Riley Eichhoff, who's been fine. He's 7-2, 3.1 ERA, but he's like, he doesn't have the strikeout, like 71 Ks in 90 innings. He's more of a command control pitch to contact guy. Like, you feel like LSU would be able to get more hits against him. And then if they have to burn top bullpen arms tomorrow, then you still have the advantage Monday with your LSU. That's the huge edge that Kade Anderson gave you tonight, because Coastal already had to use Carbone is his name, I think, their top reliever tonight.
Yes, I want to see how many.
Dominic Carbone, yeah.
Through. Give me one moment if you can.
Not be there. They also have a guy named Ryan Lynch who has an ERA of less than a run in 31 innings, so he's pretty darn good too.
I mean, Fluky gave you 6 innings. He only threw 68. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. He threw 101 pitches over 6 innings. Carbone only gave you 30 pitches, so theoretically, he's still got something left, whether that be tomorrow or Monday. And he's their top reliever, really. So I think Coastal's got it pretty good with saving Morrison for tomorrow. Morrison can give you 8 innings, and that's probably what he'll have to do in order for them to win. So 8 innings plus 1 of Carbone, I think that probably gets you through where you still have most of your top options for Monday if you need it.
And we really need to. I mean, they've really got twin relief aces, because this Ryan Lynch, his numbers are even better than Carbone's, and he's got 9 saves. Carbone's got 5. So they really, I mean, they could easily bring in Ryan Lynch to shut the door too tomorrow, and probably bring him back on Monday. They've got a lot of good numbers in their bullpen. Another guy, Matthew Potok, who has an ERA under 3 in 35 innings, with 33. They've got guys they can go to. So this is not going to be easy for LSU. I do think, if you have a lead in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you do everything you can to close it out right then and there, because nothing's guaranteed. Obviously, you want to hold somebody back to pitch on Monday, but you don't need to hold a whole lot back.
Yeah, and I think in that situation, you put Kade Evans up there and you go for it. And if it doesn't work out, if it backfires, then you've got Cowan and Shores. You may need a little more length from Shores than you would otherwise, but Shores and Cowan, not a bad option to have in your back pocket for Monday.
Yeah. Jacob Morrison pitched Sunday against Oregon State. He went 7 2/3 innings, 1 run on 5 hits, no walks, 7 Ks. In the Super Regional against Auburn, 6 innings pitched, 1 run on 6 hits, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. So he's on a roll. He's their best they've got, and LSU's going to have to find a way to hit him and hope Anthony Einstein can close the door. So let's wrap things up tonight. I mean, LSU beats Coastal Carolina 1-0. They now lead the series 1-0. Kade Anderson, I mean, just legend status, right? Complete game shutout in the College World Series. Can't do a whole lot better than that. And it sets LSU up for tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Game 2. It is on ABC. We will have the post-game show for you here on the LSU Insider channel. Subscribe to that channel, by the way. Sign up for notifications. Hit the like button for us. When you hit the bell for notifications, you'll know when we go live, because sometimes it's just 5 minutes after the game. Sometimes it's more like 20 minutes. It depends on how much time we need to set up. But it's going to be a fun day tomorrow, Reed. Any final thoughts?
No, I thank you to ESPN and ABC for staggering this game with Game 7 in the NBA Finals. I'll actually get to watch Game 7 in the NBA Finals. So I don't know if I'll be able to do a podcast, Zach. I think I'll be busy watching tip-off. So you might have to go.
Please, no 4-hour game. Please, for that, okay? That way we can have a nice long hour post-game show. And Reed, you can go watch games. It's first NBA Finals Game 7 in 9 years.
Since 2016.
2016.
2016, I was 15 years old. I remember that finals really well.
Great Game 7.
Best finals of my lifetime for sure. 2016.
That was the first year, and I had been a dad for a little while. My daughter was, I think, 5 years old at the time. She's now 14. But that was the first year I pulled the Father's Day card, because that Game 7 was on Father's Day. And when my wife said, "What do you want for Father's Day?" I said, "I want to sit on that couch, and I want to have a beer in my hand, and I want to watch this game. That's what I want." So that was the first Father's Day I was sort of able to do that. So hopefully I'll get a chance to tomorrow night. But first, LSU with business to attend to. They face Coastal Carolina. Game 2 tomorrow at 1:30. We'll be back after the game. Until then, thanks for joining us. We are brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health, the official championship health partner of LSU Athletics. He's Reed Darcy. I'm Zach Ewing. Thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow, maybe celebrating national title number 8, maybe talking about a Game 3. We don't know, but we will find out tomorrow.